Donald Trump is cracking down on crime in D.C. D.C., you've got murders and you got homeless people everywhere, and it's a shithole and blah 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 blah. And Trump had to do it, man. It's not partisan reasons at all. He's not, it's not government overreach, right? And it's DC, so I guess you don't have to worry about states' rights, or do you? I don't know. Let's expose the reality of Donald Trump, but not just Donald Trump, of the simple nature of my fellow Americans who lack a lot of critical thinking, whether you're right wing or left wing. Everybody can get it on this channel. This is not a tribal echo chamber. We're just everyday, Trump sucks and the Democrats rock and left is best. No, get the hell out of here with that. So I will give you the left is better than the right in this country anyway. But best, I don't know. They got their own issues, which is why I rip into them as well. But today we talk about Donald J. Trump cracking down on DC because of the crime, right? So, once again, American conservatives are showing themselves to be a disgrace, and certainly not patriots, right? Because at least the liberals, now, you can disagree with what they disagree about, but they look at the far left and they're like, oh, they're going too far, and these left-wingers, blah, blah. Like liberals saying that, right? Left is going too far, and it's too extreme, That can't work, because capitalism, right? Liberals talking about capitalism is good and we need capitalism and this, that, right? They look at left-wing radicals with disdain, right? Liberals, right? On the right, doesn't matter how extreme you are, almost, conservatives don't care. And I'm not talking about far-right people, obviously. I'm not talking about people that are highly political aware. I'm just talking about normal people who are conservative-leaning, are numb to far-right radicals, right? Far-right radicals can do the craziest things, and a normal conservative who's not super partisan or really into politics, or they're not like a Trump supporter, they might vote for him because it's better than the alternative, right? But they're not wearing no red hats, nothing like that. Regular conservatives, silent. Trump could do the craziest thing, right? And they'll be silent. If they get even a little bit concerned, all Trump, look at his big ass truck with his big ass flags. Definitely not a patriot. You wouldn't need to have all those giant flags if you were a patriot. Anyway, Trump can just give them a lame excuse and they'll fall for it. So here's the reality. And now this is not just about Trump. Again, we're talking about just Americans in general. Americans are very emotional. So they are easy to make a lot of money off of, right? So if you're in the news media business, which in this country is really the entertainment media, right? Because they're all about entertainment. Then it's easy for you to get a lot of money from them by playing with their emotions, because they're very emotional, right? I could have a city where crime is the lowest in the entire country, right? And then there's one gruesome murder that happens, right? And I could very easily get people into a panic about crime. Again, the lowest crime in the country. One gruesome murder. And you talk about it and you say, wow, times are crazy now, you never know. Anytime it could be anywhere and somebody could come and get you. And how are you supposed to let your kids go to school and knowing that there's, these predators out there, right? Obviously that alone is not going to do it. But you talk about that story, you talk about it in that way. And then some other crime, because crime is always going to happen, right? Some other crime happens and you say, oh, just last week we had that gruesome murder. And now we have this lady just got punched in the face. I mean, think about that. You're just walking down the street and somebody can punch you in the face, and it's, I have a friend and he says he doesn't go outside anymore because he thinks people are going to punch him in the face, right? The same thing they do after a major crash, major plane crash. Then they start talking about every crash that they weren't talking about before. Because now become stories because people are emotional, and you can tap into the emotions. Big crashes happen, and you say, "Oh, just last week a plane crash. Now a plane crash again," and they lack critical thinking. They're not gonna look into it like, "Wait a minute, what's happening here? What's the normal rate of crashes? Is this actually different?" No, they're not gonna look into it. So you just fret as well. I don't know what's happening. Why are all these planes crashing? Right? Do the same thing with crime. People are lazy. Lack critical thinking, whether you're left wing, right wing, center wing, no wing. In this country, I don't know what they're teaching in schools, but people lack critical thinking. So, the narrative of going to DC because of crime is nonsense. Some of the most dangerous places in the country are red states, with murders and crimes galore. But all we ever hear about is, oh, Chicago, oh, New York City, one of the safest cities in the country, but whatever. Oh, New York City, all these blue cities. Democrats are soft on crime. They're soft on crime. And while you're hearing about this, tons of people getting murdered in red states, and apparently no one seems to care. Not even the conservatives who live there, right? So you're literally a conservative living in a state with a high murder rate, and yet you're online talking about New York, and yeah, it's a good thing Trump is going to DC and cracking down, right? It's dangerous out there. Absurd. So here's the reality of what's actually happening. I live in a blue city and a blue suburb, right? So I got two experiences: blue city, blue suburb, right? Where the Democrats are soft on crime and the blue city, One of these areas is actually, on paper, not the best area to live in, right? If you look online, you're going to hear some scary stories, and you're going to hear the place referred to in a very negative way, right? And that is not completely warrantless. I think I'm using that word inappropriately, but anyway. We do have gangs in the area. There's local gangs in the area. There is gang activity, right? But that being said, it is typical. Now, I wouldn't do this personally, and it doesn't matter about where I'm living, just in general. With motorcycles are a high theft item. It's easy to steal. You need two guys in a truck, right? You don't need a particular skill set, right? Just grab it, throw it in the back, and you're out, right? So I'm always very protective of my motorcycle, regardless of the area, right?
Caution.
But
Trap ahead.
I see in my neighborhood a lot of guys just parking their bikes right in front of their homes. They're not covered. They're not chained up. They're just sitting there 24/7 all night long, just sitting on the street, right? I mean, so they feel comfortable enough in a high crime area to just leave their bikes out. Okay. Me personally, many times have left my doors open, unlocked. Right? That's a normal thing. That's not a strange thing. I will leave my car running, keys in the car and everything. You can just jump in and drive off, right? And I'm not an idiot. I'm not unaware of this risk, right? But I live in reality, and I realize that no matter what I do, and it's not this like some people believe like it doesn't matter doing anything because if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna talk about that, right? I think that's like fatalistic or whatever. I just live in reality, and I realize that.
Use the left 2 lanes to continue on I-87 north toward Albany.
No matter what, crime can happen and will happen, right? But I don't just end it there. I go further. I say, okay, so since I can't just put myself in a shield or something like, because I do these 5 things, crime can't happen to me. No matter what I do, I can still become a victim of crime, right? So then I look at it logically. So then what should I concern myself with then? Since I can't ever try to be like, okay, I'm going to be perfectly safe. So what I concern myself with is statistics, right?
Caution.
How high is the risk or likelihood of dangerous crimes happening to me in the area that I'm in? Right? How likely is it for a dangerous crime to happen? Based on the likelihood of the crime, I adjust my behavior. So again, I'm not the person who like, it doesn't matter, just live your life. No, right? If I'm in an area where there's a really high probability of a crime happening, then I'm gonna lock it down, right? Like, I know Brooklyn is being gentrified a lot, so I may be dating what I'm saying now, but I think East New York is still a problematic area. I ain't even about key in my car in East New York, right? And that's not because blue cities are soft on crime. It's because East New York is hot. You know what I mean? Like, we have gang issues where I'm at, right? But it's very localized, and it's also very sort of insider, meaning the biggest people at risk of the gang, any kind of gang violence, are gang members, right? Gang on gang violence. Now, when gang on gang violence, obviously you can have innocent bystanders, but that's just not a big risk in my area. You just don't really have crazy shootouts happening and random. I mean, obviously it can happen, and I'm sure it does happen, but it's not something that is very likely to happen. You're unlikely to even witness any of this stuff happening, right? I don't even hear police sirens. I don't really see police cars that much, like screaming down the block. Now, I'll give another idea in comparison. So it's not like just blue cities, right? There are dangerous areas that actual, like, forget about how they look online or what people say about them. They're actually legit areas. So for example, Paterson, New Jersey, right? As of 2 years ago at least, is hot. I ain't leaving my car running in Paterson, New Jersey, right? It's just not happening, right? So blue cities are not a problem. It's high crime areas that are a problem, right? Red state, high crime areas. Blue state, high crime areas. The dangerous places to be are the places where there's high crime. And there's plenty of them that are red states. And we certainly have blue state areas that are high crime. But it's not Democratic policies are easy on crime, so stay away from the blue cities, they're dangerous. What? I ride the New York City subway confidently. Right? Now, what if it's 1 a.m. in the morning? not so confident anymore. Especially if I know I'm going through some areas that are not so nice. But going to work, middle of the day, late afternoon, early evening, I'm good on the New York City subway, right? I'm good in my blue areas, right? I see neighbors all the time with their front doors open, right? In the summertime, you open the door and you have the screen door. That's what's happening in blue cities. Screen door. I could just run up in there, bust through that screen door. I'm in the person's house and do whatever, right? So some people are living in reality. They recognize that even though we do have issues, there are gangs in the area. There are certain details. Like I said, it's gang on gang violence. It's certain hot spots, you know, the places where they hang out, the streets that they live on, right? There's also time of day. Like there's certain streets I'll be on all day, main streets, right? And up to like maybe 9 or 10 p.m., I'm okay. But when it starts getting 11 and later, certain streets, I'll avoid, right? My neighborhood streets, you know, where I'm at, you know, and nearby, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Speed trap ahead. And that is even considering that I know that there are gangs that are even as close as 4 to 5 blocks away, right? There's nothing stopping them from coming on my street or coming nearby, right? But I know generally doesn't happen, right? You hardly ever see the police on our streets, and if you do, it's like some domestic violence thing, or it's a landlord-tenant situation. But it's not somebody got murdered or somebody got robbed. I don't even hear about car break-ins or nothing like that. More likely than like somebody smashing your window and like stealing the car or whatever, is if you leave your car door unlocked and then you do that all night. Not a high probability, but that is now you're getting into territory where now you're pushing it, because you might have certain people who might walk the block and try door handles, and if one is open, they might just go in. They probably will go in, and if they see something of value, probably somebody on drugs or whatever it is, they might just grab it, right? Now, mind you, you won't see these people in the daytime, right? Daytime, it's friendly neighbors. We're a great community. I was just laughing with my sister how we're always having these impromptu meetings. It's not really meetings. What happens is someone's in their front yard. Somebody else walks by. Hey, John, what are you doing over there, man? You cutting grass? You couldn't pay some kids to do that? Ha ha ha! Oh yeah, man. You know, got it done. Da, da, da. Is that the new electric lawnmower? Oh man, how you like it? I was thinking about getting one. Da, da, da. Right. So now conversation's going. Then some other neighbor drives by and sees this, and they pull up. Hey man, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. So now it's 3 people. Next thing you know, it's like 5 or 6 people just shooting the shit. Right? That's just how we are, man. Very close-knit community. We know each other. We look out for each other. Like that's the dangerous blue city, right? People parking their motorcycles uncovered, unsecured. People leaving the doors open, screen doors open. Neighbors talking to each other. When I was sick with COVID, an older lady next door brought me 2 grocery bags worth of food. And it's not like she got money like that. You know, she's on the lower income side. You know, she's working at like a local shop, right? You know, like a retail shop or something. So she ain't have money like that, but just out of the kindness of her heart, this is a person who one day bought, I guess she got some flowers from her job, and she dropped it off at a bunch of people's house front doors, and with a nice note about something about, I don't know, some like hippie type, you know, like that's the dangerous blue city, right? That's the blue city. That's, by the way, just to clarify, that area I'm referring to is a blue city, right? And not just a blue city, right? Because you can't just say, oh, well, that's just maybe where I'm in an area that's not that bad. We literally have gang activity not too far, right? And in that same area, somebody's dropping off flowers for the neighbors, right? Again, we look out for each other, right? We don't even have an official neighborhood watch, but it's like we know each other. We know our cars. We know, you know, when we recognize somebody who's not from the area. So if you come lurking around or whatever, you know, we're gonna spot you real quick, right? Someone might get a phone call or something like that. I saw some guy lurking around on your porch when you were at work, you know, but we don't really have a lot of opportunities to do that, but that's what would happen, right? I have a feral cat that I feed from out of town. I let another neighbor know, and she'll feed the cat for me. Another neighbor had lost their cat, and we were all helping to try and you know, locate the cat, checking our cameras and stuff. Another neighbor, someone hit his car, and we went into like investigative mode, and I had my cameras, another neighbor had the cameras, and we were going through the footage, and we actually solved it. We saw on camera it was a school bus that you know, you could see the school bus was stopped really close to his car for a time. I didn't see the impact, but it was kind of obvious, like, why are you stopping there in the middle of the road? The other neighbor had a better angle, so we were able to lock it down, and you know, we help each other out, man. That is the blue city, right? And Trump wants to he's gonna send troops, right? And that's the way it works, right? Again, we literally have gang activity, right? Crime is not something I really think about. I don't think crime is a high priority for a lot of my neighbors in terms of like things that they're worried about. They're probably more worried about the cost of groceries, the cost of rent. Interesting, these are things that the left tends to talk about. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. You know, I'm in a blue area. Things that people in blue area are concerned about is what they talk about. But I'm just saying, these are things that are actually causing problems. People are actually struggling to pay their rent, right? They're not struggling because they're getting broken into, or people are robbing them, or like crime is not messing with their lives. What's messing with their lives is costs, right? But what does Trump want to talk about? Not costs. He want to talk about crime in places where crime is actually down, right? But like I said, this is how you have even normal conservatives who are silent, right? Because Trump could very easily send the troops to my area, right? All these guys do is talk about these gangs. The gangs are running rampant, and he can cite, because obviously this crime happening, right? So he just cites a couple of stories, you know, somebody got robbed or whatever, and pick something that's really emotional, like some old guy and whatever, and you know, he was a nice guy and something happened, right? Next he's got troops in there, and the far right people, obviously they're like, yeah, crack some skulls or whatever. But then you have a normal conservative that you can easily disarm and just say, well, hey man, there was gangs in there and Trump had to do it, and Trump is actually looking out for these people. Like that's how good Trump is. They didn't even vote for him. They hate him. And there he is, he's coming in and making the area safer for them. Think about that. Trump doesn't have to go there. These people didn't support him. But yeah, he goes there because he loves this country and he really wants, the place to be safe, and he hates crime, right? You could literally say that to a normal conservative and have them be like, yeah, it makes sense. The area where we have our doors open, cars running with the keys in it, nobody's thinking about crime. Not nobody, you know what I mean? I hate when people do say that. So I don't want to do. In general, people aren't worried about crime. They're worried about costs, right? But you could send the military, and conservatives would just sit by silently and be like, yeah, makes sense. The other area I live in is a little different because that area is all around really safe. There's no gang activity. There's nothing going on there. Really low crime. Even smaller town. And I've been there for 15 years, and I can only think of one big crime that ever happened, and it was a big one. It was a triple murder. It was some weird love triangle. It was old people, actually. It was weird. Like they were 60 years old or something like that, or older, and one person killed one and then suicide or something like that. But that's all it did, that one story, right? And then you could just frame it as like, yeah, man, things are dangerous. You never know. You're not safe anywhere. I tell you, man, I think some of the most paranoid and afraid people are conservatives, and that makes sense because of the media they consume, right? That's the gun obsession, right? Gotta have your guns, man. Never know when somebody's gonna come up on you, right? Meanwhile, I have no such concern that I need to have a gun, right? Not that I'm naive and I don't realize that these things happen, right? Something can happen to you anytime, anywhere, right? Good area, bad area. But for some reason, I'm not all afraid of like, I need to have guns and I need to have 12 guns and gotta be ready. You never know, man. But the right-wing media has their people all just like, paranoid, you never know what's gonna happen, and things are out of control. And it's not, and then it's a very simplistic way of thinking, because somebody listen to me and they'll be like, well, I'm being dismissive and I'm acting like as if crime doesn't happen, and actually, you know what? Any crime that happens is a bad thing. You gotta react appropriate to the situation, man. Right? There's a mode of being if you're on a literal battlefield, right? If you're on a literal battlefield in war, there's a certain mode that you should adopt, right, in that situation. If you're in a quiet, safe neighborhood, there's another mode there. There you can be a little more relaxed and lackadaisical. You can get shot in the head in an instant in both locations, right? But in one area, high probability, so you better have your head on a swivel and you better not be relaxed. You better be on alert. But in that quiet residential neighborhood, there's no need to be all paranoid and freaking out, even though something can happen there. Because like I said, ultimately, right, there's one thing that the fatalists are correct about, and that is that you could do everything you want to be safe, and ultimately we're all gonna die at some point, right? And beyond that very, very simplistic fact, you can be a victim of any type of crime, anytime, anywhere. Robbery, murder, whatever it is. Right? You could wear a bulletproof vest all day long. You could wear one of those helmets that they wear in the military, carry like 2 rifles, whatever it is, but you don't have eyes behind your head, right? You can't see a guy with a sniper rifle 500 yards away. So no matter what you do, you can't avoid being a target. So the appropriate thing to do is to match your mode with the conditions that you're in. If you're on a literal battlefield, head on a swivel, right? If you're in an area that is not the greatest, but also not the worst, maybe you don't need your head on a swivel, but at least be aware of your surroundings, right? Pick up on weird activity, like somebody not too close from you that just shows up and they're kind of lingering around. They seem out of place. Maybe keep an eye on them, maybe move from where you are, right? But if you're in an area, like, forget about, news reports of some crazy story, that in general, like, there isn't a lot of crime happening, then you can relax, right? I'm not saying you should never just totally just not be aware. Even my most relaxed, I'm still generally attentive. It's just the level matches the area, right? But people, they watch the news, and the news show, oh, this happened and that happened and some lady got killed and whatever, and their mode is appropriate to the TV, right? What you're seeing on TV versus reality, right? The media paints a world that is far more hostile and dangerous than it actually is, because they make profit from doing so. And then you have certain people that are susceptible to this manipulation, who put their mode appropriate to the fantasy that the news media creates for profit. I, on the other hand, I don't totally ignore the media. I mean, they are reporting on actual things happening, but I try to keep myself informed. Like, if I hear a lot of stories, then I say, okay, is something really going on that I need to be aware of? So I'll look into it. I'll look into the crime stats, right? I might even talk to a police officer and get their thoughts, right? I'll look into it, and based on what I find, I'll make a decision. But a lot of people, they're not thinking on that level. It's just kind of like very passive, sheep. You feed them a narrative, and they, oh no, this is dangerous now. Things are out of control, and New York City is so dangerous, and I need to have 12 guns. Really? Anyway, the DC narrative is BS. The narrative in California, where he had all those troops in California, where there's nothing going on, and see how we can spend our tax dollars, right? This is what the resources are being used for. I mean, what did they accomplish, right? He could just take our troops away from their training or whatever it is, away from their families, to stand around doing nothing but arresting veterans, or a veteran rather, right? Harassing people and getting, images that Trump can use to, like, say, look, I'm cracking down, look what I'm doing, I'm serious on crime. Meanwhile, he can release literal criminals who assaulted officers, who quickly go and commit other crimes. He's right now protecting one of the biggest pedophiles ever, and all of the people that victimize those kids. He's protecting them, and he can get away with it by pretending like he cares about crime, like deploying the military. I'm cracking down on all these blue cities. Wow. Anyway, guys, this is Baby Time. The baby comes down below, taking a line. What was that? This is Baby Channel. The baby in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. And I'm out. I got landscaping to do. I got to escape the land.